Hello and welcome to this episode of I Don't Know Jack About Parenting, where today I'm going to be talking about, what do we have to be thankful for this year?
So the big question is this: how are parents like us, who don't have a manual, who are doing the best we can, who feel as though we aren't enough, how are we going to raise healthy, happy children who we are proud of and still keep our sanity in that process? That's the question, and this podcast will give you the answers. My name is Ryan Roy, and welcome to I Don't Know Jack About Parenting, a podcast for parents who are being real with themselves.
Hello and welcome back to this episode of I Don't Know Jack About Parenting, where today I'm going to be asking you the question, what do you have to be thankful for this year? See, it's the week of Thanksgiving, and as you're listening to this, you're probably preparing or traveling or getting loose ends made or going out and buying stuff because you're trying to create a tradition. Tradition is something we talked about in earlier episodes of I Don't Know Jack About Parenting. You're trying to create an ambiance of togetherness, right? We are attempting to bring that from one generation to another as parents. And if for whatever reason you're listening to this and you're already a grandparent, you're hoping that the next generation carries that tradition. Or if there was never a strong tradition, maybe just start a new tradition. And it's exciting to think for me that it's the end of the year and people are going to be gathering around a table of loved ones, even though that can be challenging, right? Some people that it's a challenge to show up for the family for whatever reason, right? We all I should probably do a podcast on this maybe tomorrow about the can we be functional in our own dysfunction, right? Because you may think that you're the only family that has challenges, but I'll tell you, you find me a family that doesn't have challenges, we're going to find a bunch of liars, right? No matter what's going on, every family faces challenges, but we could talk about challenges all day long, and that's what a lot of people do. But I want to give you the perspective of what is it that you can be thankful for. And I think just if you can gather together, we should be thankful for that. Because some people live great distances apart and they're able to come together. Some people have crazy work schedules and they come together. Some people have children and have to travel with those children to a great distance, and we're invited and welcome to be in that place, and that's something to be thankful for. But I was talking to a client last week, and as he's preparing to travel for his Thanksgiving with his family and go see his mom, he shared with me something he listened to on a stand-up comedian. He said as the guy had him rolling and joking, right? We all love a good laugh. He got really serious in the middle of his act, and I don't know who he is or exactly what the comedy was about. I should probably ask the client for a YouTube version of it and share that with you later on. But he said this comedian got really serious, and he says, I started pondering as I'm getting older in my life, and I have kids, and I want my kids to experience as much time as possible with my parents because they impacted me, and I think family's important. He says, and as I'm getting older, if you really think about it, you spend the majority of your time with your parents those days, from the time you're 0 to 18, right? They are your primary caregivers. And then, life, once you graduate high school, most of us go off to college, some go into the workforce, and you don't, he goes, in my case, I haven't seen my parents more than 2 or 3 times a year since I went off to college. Because I would come back for Christmas or I would come back for Thanksgiving, but that senior year is like, hey, I'm going to spend this last Christmas with my friends, because I don't know where they're going to be going. And he goes, and now that I'm adult, I went off and I travel for work, being a comedian. and I'm not always in the same city, so it's those important holidays that I go back. And as my parents are getting older, and I just, as listeners of this, like, where are you going, Ryan? Like, I don't know jack about parenting, but this made a lot of sense to me as he shared it with me. He he says, if you see your parents twice a year for the next, let's just say 10 years, if you have 10 with your parents. In my case, my mom is in her late 70s. I don't have a relationship with my father, right? That's why I wrote the book, Be the Dad You Wish You Had. And my mom has just gone through some health challenges with cancer, which threw a little scare into me. I don't know how many of those days I have left. And if it's Christmas and Thanksgiving are those days, how are we spending those days? He said, and the guy said, you know, I find that people are attached to electronics. They spend all year, they've gone out of town, they've done this, and they'll be staring into their phone, or they'll be staring into an iPad, or they'll be staring into a television. He goes, when we really should be connecting, because we don't know how much time we have left. And my client shared, he says, you know, I can picture the last time I was in my mom's kitchen, and she's preparing a meal, and I'm sitting across on a bar stool at the counter there, and I'm in my phone, and she says to me, she said, wow, you're on your phone a lot. And he says, and his immediate thought was like, well, I really don't know what to talk about. He goes, but this time, when he travels this time, because of that comedian and those thoughts, and he doesn't know how many other times he gets to engage with his mom in person and have a real conversation, that he's going to be very conscious to not only not have his phone on, but not on him to even have the temptation to turn it on, and really engage as best he can, and hopefully teach his daughter that lesson. Like, when we're together as a family, we engage, whether they're going to play games, whether they're going to have conversation, whether they're going to laugh about old times. And when he shared that with me, and I have the ultimate dysfunctional family, when he shared it with me, I said, I want to thank you for sharing that with me, because first of all, it's great insight, and this is what we talk about in the coaching, is being present where you're at. And I said, one of the things that we do at our Thanksgiving or Christmas feasts at the family, at my sister's house over the last 15 years, is the cool thing is we always invite other people who may not have loved ones close by, and like, hey, if you don't have a place to go, you're always welcome here. And as those people disperse and it's really just the family, there's usually about 10, 12 of us around a table, and we play cards. We don't have any electronics on. My other brother always brings his little, he's the music guy, he always brings his little bows, and he brings a playlist, and we sit around like when we were children, and we had very little, and we always had a deck of cards, and we sit around and we play penny poker. It's I think the maximum bet we could do is 10 cents, and we all bring bags of change, and we sit around for hours, and we laugh and we joke, and we bring up memories of when we were children. And one of the memories that came up a couple years ago, my brother in his early teens had stolen a case of beer from the local supermarket, which had a wooded area pretty close to it. And as he was running through the woods in the dark after stealing a case of bottled beer, he tripped over something. The bottles fell out of his hands, and one of them sliced his wrist open pretty badly. He wasn't too far from home. I remember I was a young guy at the time. I was probably 5. And he came in, he's like, Mom, I'm bleeding. I got to go to the hospital. And he severed a major vein and some ligaments and things in his hand. Had to have major surgery. And my mom went on to sue the city for the damages because they had broken glass on their property. So as they're sharing this story, oh, remember when he did this and that? And I was like, yeah, well, you shouldn't have stole the case of beer. The very logical one, and me being, he's 8 years older than I am. Me being 5 at the time, he was 13. And Mom is there, right? Mom's at this Thanksgiving, card table. She never plays. She always watches from a distance. And I imagine she loves that we still do this. And the look on my brother's face as I say that, he's shaking his head and he's in astonishment. Like, Mom didn't know that. Mom's never known that. And here we are 40 years later, nearly 40 years later, sharing this story. And my mom goes, "You kids, you lied to me. I should have known better. I defended you. I fought the city for 2 years." And and the fact that those stories come up and we can laugh about them, and we're laughing as mom storms off into the other room and he's like, "Why would you say something like that?" I was like, "Dude, I was 5. You guys talked. I didn't say it for 40 years. You should be happy I held it this long. I figured somewhere along the way at a table like this, mom would have figured that out." And I go, "How many other things does she not know that I know?" And they all just started laughing. But that's the joy of family, if we could engage. So I encourage you, if your family plays board games or plays card games or does anything non-electronic, to engage and find out what those laughs are. We have so much to be thankful for, and be thankful that you have that time. And if you really put it in perspective, right? What are we going to be teaching our kids on these holidays? What is your tradition? What are you going to do that they're going to emulate and duplicate for their family? And I hope it's not staring in the screens. I don't know jack about parenting, but togetherness should be just that. Being together and embracing each other. We'll see you in the next episode.
Do you want to be the dad you wish you had? If so, go get my free book, Be the Dad You Wish You Had, at BeTheDadYouWishYouHad.com. Inside, you'll find my most effective 40 tips to quickly and easily transform yourself into the ideal dad. Go to BeTheDadYouWishYouHad.com now and get it while it's free.